I'm going to show you how to connect a genuine PS3 controller to a RetroPie unit, to a Raspberry Pi 3 running RetroPie. If you have no controllers configured, you're going to come up with this screen that says no gamepads detected. You can't configure this controller from this spot. You have to do a few things, and the first thing I recommend is if you're going to configure anything, go ahead and configure a keyboard. So I'm going to take a keyboard that's already connected, and I'm going to push a button on it, and it's going to say keyboard. And then I'm going to use my arrow keys on the keyboard to do up, down, left, and right. And then for the start button, I usually use the enter button. For the select button, I use the space bar. And then whenever it says A, B, X, Y, I actually use the A button, the B button, the X button, and the Y button. Now for the next buttons, the left shoulder, I'll use 1. The right shoulder, I'll use 2. The left trigger, I'll use 3. The right trigger, I'll use 4. The left thumb, I'll use 5. And the right thumb, I'll use 6. Now you don't have analog joysticks, so you're going to skip these buttons, these configurations. So just hold the 1 and the 2 key at the same time, and it'll say not defined. It'll just skip right through it. And you just keep doing that for all of them. Just skip right on through it because you don't have an analog. I suppose you could put one on here, maybe. I've never really tried. I just skip it. And for the hotkey enable, I always skip it also. You can make a key like your H key the hotkey, but I skip it, and I'll show you why. Basically, you'll get this screen talking about a hotkey enable button, and it'll ask about using the select button default. I do that because that way when you're playing your games and you want to exit, you just hit select and start at the same time. Or if you want to go into some configuration stuff, you can hit select and other buttons, and it'll pop up other options while you're playing a game. And that's really way more detailed stuff than this video shows. But I just answer yes to this. So my select button is my hotkey button. If I press select plus another button at the exact same time. Okay, so you're in RetroPie now. You have your keyboard configured, which is super duper important because it will always serve as a backup if your controller configurations go crazy. And I'm just going to go over to here where it says RetroPie, and I'm going to go ahead and go into it. And then you want to drop down to RetroPie setup. And as I'm going into it, as you notice on the bottom, there's labels. Those labels are applicable to your keyboard. What you set up, with the start being the enter and the select being the space bar, and then those at X, B, and A being your A, B, and X on your keyboard. So that's how you get around. And so I'm going to go ahead and go into RetroPie setup. And then I'm going to go down to manage packages. Go down to manage driver packages. And then where it says PS3 Controller, I'm going to hit OK on that. And then it says install from source. Now this next part's going to be a little lengthy. It's got to connect to the internet. You must be connected to the internet to do this. It's just going to download the files that it needs. It's going to build it, all that other good stuff. And then it'll drop out of this back into that blue and red screen that we were just in. So you've got your PS3 controller driver. So you want to go back, and then go back again, and then go back again to the main menu. And you want to go down to configuration tools, hit OK. Now for this part, you want to go down to where it says PS3 Controller. And before you actually go into PS3 Controller, you want to make sure that your PS3 controller is connected with the USB cable to your unit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. It's going to give you a warning about partially disabling standard Bluetooth stack stuff, blah, blah, blah. So, basically, you give up a little bit of Bluetooth functionality to use this PS3 controller. But I would strongly recommend using a USB keyboard, whether it be 2.4 gigahertz wireless USB keyboard or a wired one. I would not use a Bluetooth keyboard anyway. So just go ahead and hit OK. It says pair PS3 controller. So for this, you want to go ahead and go into that, hit OK. It says please connect your PS3 controller now or anytime to its USB connection to set up Bluetooth connection. Afterwards, disconnect your PS3 controller from its connection and press the PS button to connect via Bluetooth. And you hit OK. And it just did its thing. So then you want to cancel out, go back, and go to exit. Now you can disconnect your PS3 controller. The lights should be blinking on the top, on the upper left-hand corner. Go ahead and disconnect it. Now, it's not going to work right now, but it is connected. So if you hit that PlayStation button right in the middle of your controller, the lights will blink, and then it's going to shake, and the lights are going to strobe, and it's going to go to number 1. So it's your first controller. But, like I said, it's not actually configured to run. You don't have your button set up. So you have to press the enter button on your keyboard, the same as the start button, and you want to go down to where it says configure input and go ahead and go into that. It's going to ask if you're sure you want to configure input. Yes, you are. Now it detects a gamepad. It's not detecting your keyboard. It is detecting the PlayStation 3 controller. So just go through the motions, up, down, left, right, start, select, A, B, X, and Y. You set those up how you want with the circle, the X, the square, and the triangle. I usually make the A the circle, the B the X, the X the triangle, and the Y the square. And then you have your left shoulder, right shoulder, which are your smaller buttons on the top of the controller, your left trigger, your right trigger. You want to push down on your left analog joystick for the left thumb, and then push down on your right joystick for the right thumb. And then go left up, down, left, and right on your analog joystick on the left. And then go up, down, left, and right for your right analog joystick. And a hotkey enable, again, just push 2 buttons like the X and the circle button, and then just not defined. Just make it not defined. And then hit OK. And it's going to give you that same option about making the select button default for the hotkey. You want to go ahead and just answer yes to that. And that's pretty much it. Now you've got a fully functional PS3 controller that's wireless, and it'll work on your games. And I have nothing else to say. That's it. You've got it all set up. So get yourself some emulators on the system. If you want additional emulators that aren't already loaded, get some ROMs or whatever, and just go ahead and knock yourself out and play. Thanks for watching.